Alright, this video is dedicated to an assignment for making animated GIFs. So notice I said it's not a project, just an assignment. You're going to create an animated GIF in Photoshop, which I believe will help you when it comes time to create your animated sprite for your next project. Unless you have the time, there's no need to make this ultra refined. It's really just a warm-up. I'll show you a rough example that I made, and then we'll make one together. So first thing I'll do is I'll just go into Google Chrome. You can do this in any browser. If you've already made a GIF, you know that you can just simply go, let me go over to a blank spot here. That I'll just go File and Open File. And I will go to a GIF that I have made in the past. And so there's the animated GIF. Now it goes on forever, but in reality it's just 8 frames. So I'll show you this in Photoshop. Here it is. Here's the stuff you'll be learning about in here, is how to make basically a frame for each layer that you have in Photoshop. Once you have it all put together in Photoshop, you can click play over here and preview your animation in Photoshop. So what we'll do is we'll create an animation together. So what I've done here is I've just done a Google search for animation sequence. You can do this any way you want, find any content that you want, as long as it has 8 frames of animation that continues. Here's the walking one that I've used in the past. So just look for something that's an animated loop, and the one I want to use right here, I'm going to go to View Image, and then I'm going to right click on this, save it somewhere where I know where it's at, and then I'm going to go and open that in Photoshop. Now we're not copying this or using this, we're just trying to get down a sequence of a bird flying, a dog walking, a person walking or running, and we'll modify it in our own way. Okay, so I've opened this image up inside of Photoshop, and what I need to know is how big to make my new document so that I can easily place these images in. I don't want to make it too big, but I definitely don't want to make it too small where I'll have to recreate it later. So it looks to me like about 460 by 460 will be plenty big. And the way I figured that out is I just grabbed the rectangle marquee tool and just clicked and dragged a marquee out with it. And as I was doing that, as you could see, it showed me what size that was. Okay, I'll get rid of the marquee by doing Command D as in Delta. I will go up to File, New. I'll create a new document that is 460 by 460. We want this to be at 72 pixels per inch because the assumption here is it's just for basic web, RGB for web, and then very important step here is make the background transparent. Actually, that's not so important right now, but let's still do that. Color profile, sRGB, and all these have drop downs here to help you select. And square pixels, click OK. There's our new document. Now we're going to be using the tabs to go back and forth from this document to place things inside of this document. So the first thing we want to do in this document is double click on the background to release the background. So double click and then just hit return, and that takes it from being a background to making it become layer 0. Now we're going to take the crop tool and we're going to start cropping out these images one at a time. An important thing here, make sure you don't save this as you work, because we need to keep going back to this. If you do accidentally do it, it's not the end of the world. You just have to get the image back in unaltered. So you may want to make a copy of the image, especially if it's an important one that you can't simply go out to the web and get again. So I'm going to grab the crop tool, this guy right here. I'm going to make sure that it's cleared by clicking clear. That way I'll just get a normal crop with it. And all I need to do is just make sure that I get a decent crop. It's okay if I bring a little bit of the next image in. I just don't want it to be too huge, but I definitely don't want it to, actually chop into the image. So that's easy to change after the fact just by placing your cursors over these little marks and dragging it out. Once you have the crop that you like, you can just either double click inside of it or hit return. Then we're going to go up to the move tool, select the move tool, click and drag. We're going to drag all the way up to the tab for the new document that we made. It changes color up here to a lighter white, and then move the cursor back in over the image area and release. So we now have that image inside of there. We now have a layer created. So I'm going to double click on that layer. I'm going to name it 1, and I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this other layer that's in here by clicking it and then clicking the trash can. Now we can go back to this image, and in Photoshop, Command Z takes you back one step, or can actually toggle between the last steps. That's not far enough back. We need to go back 2 steps. So to do that, you hold down Command and Option and Z, and now you can toggle back through your document. But I only want to go back 2 times so that I still have this is layer 0. And now I'm going to take the crop tool and I'm going to crop out this second image. Now, what you'll notice is a lot of times when people make these things available on the web, that they purposely make it so it's not easy to do what we're doing. 1, it has watermarks over the top of it. 2, the other image comes in. So again, we're not worried about that because we're not trying to steal from anyone. We're just using this as a resource to help us. Double click on that to crop it, go back, grab the selection tool, click, drag this over the untitled, drag back. Okay, so now I need to repeat that about 6 more times, but actually let me give you something that you can do as you're doing it that'll make your life even easier. So do continue to change the layer names as you go. You'll notice that layer 2 automatically in Photoshop will go over layer 1. So in other words, the next things that you bring in, just keep this top layer selected all the times, and the new ones will continue to make a layer above. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place these in place as I bring them. It's easier when you have less layers. Easier to do this when you have 2 and 3 layers rather when you have all 8. So first thing I'm going to do is double click on the hand tool. That brings the image up to maximum viewing size. Then with number 2 selected, I'm going to, and here's how you can tell when something's selected. 1 is selected right now, 2 is selected. Now I'm going to go up to the opacity, click inside of there, and I'm going to type in 50%. So that's for layer 2. And then what I'm going to do is take the move tool and move layer 2 on top of layer 1 so that the beak matches up. And then once I get it close, I can use the up and down and left and right arrow keys. The nice thing about Photoshop is everything is pixel oriented, so it's pretty easy to tell if you're on or you're off with the opacity down. And it doesn't have to be super, super perfect anyway. In fact, when things animate, when real things move, they don't keep their heads perfectly still. So there, that kind of gives you a preview of what's happening next. And then I'll go to the opacity, either type in 100 or just drop this down, slide it all the way to the right, click away, and then again we're just going to keep repeating this. So no sense you watching me. I'm going to go ahead and pause that and let you do the same with your work. So I've just brought my 8th image in, set the opacity back to 100, and then we don't really have to do this since we're just going to be tracing over this. But what the heck, let's make this look pretty on its own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off all the eyeballs here just by clicking upwards, except for the first one. And with that one on, what I'm going to do is anything that should not be there, I'm going to just take this, in fact, we'll switch to the polygonal lasso tool, and that's just a matter of connect the dots. So we'll do a connect the dots around the figures that should not be there, and once they start blinking, or the marching ants or the marquee is continued, we'll just go ahead and we'll fill them in with white. So a nice shortcut for that in Photoshop is with the default foreground and background colors, which you can get by clicking there. If you had to happen to have other colors in there, just click right there, takes you to the default, and then oops, I did a little boo-boo here. I'm actually selected on layer number 8. That's an important consideration, is we have to be selected on the proper layer. And then we just do Command Delete, and it fills that selection in with white. Then we'll do one other thing here. We'll go over to the tools and we'll select the Magic Wand tool. Notice it's housed also with the Quick Select tool. We want Magic Wand. And with layer 1 selected and turned on, we'll click inside this checkerboard pattern, which represents transparency. And when we do that, we make a selection there, and then once again, with the default colors, Command D, we'll fill that in with white. I'm sorry, Command Delete, and then Command D gets rid of that marquee. So let me just repeat that for one more layer with you, and then we'll do the rest on our own. Okay, so turn on 2, and we'll first make a selection around the things that we want to get rid of here. And a double click once you get close to completing the path will get you the marching ants, and then Command Delete to fill that color. So click, 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 and then anywhere over here, double click, Command Delete. Now, it may look like we already have a white background, but that's actually from layer 1. So if I take layer 1, turn that off, then we can just go to the Magic Wand tool again, do a quick select there, Command Delete, Command D, and then we're going to continue that with the remaining layers. Okay, now each of the layers is somewhat cleaned up, and this is a big no-no. I've waited all this time and haven't saved this. Hopefully you were smarter than me. But we should save this as a PSD file. That's the native Photoshop format. And that allows you to save layers. It doesn't put any compression on the work, and then we can go back and we could make several different GIFs from this PSD file. So I'll just call this GIF assignment, and that's fine. We'll go ahead and we'll save that. Okay, so we have 8 layers, exactly the way we want them. In fact, you can just by me moving that, you can kind of see what the animation is going to look like. But we'll explore that in the next movie. This way, the next movie will start out with the actual steps of creating an animated GIF to make it easy to reference it in the future.